Do you want to move abroad, but you just don't know how? And you're feeling really overwhelmed by the process? I was too, and I still made it happen. Today, I'm going to go through all the steps, or some of them, that I took to make my dreams of moving abroad into a reality, and I'm pretty sure that I can help you do the same. So if that sounds good, stick around. I am Kimberly Ann, also known as Expat on a Budget, and I moved abroad in 2022 by myself, sight unseen, at 56 years old. I had never lived outside of the country before. I'm from the United States, and I had traveled quite a bit, but 2022 is my first time moving abroad to a new country, and like I said, never ever visited here before. I visited a lot of countries in Europe, however. I'm going to tell you the steps that I took to get here in hopes that they will help you. But first, a little backstory. I had been wanting to move abroad for I'd been researching it for at least 10 years. I'd been wanting to move abroad for as long as I can remember. And it was my dream, and I fantasized about it, which totally counts as one of the steps, because that's the first step, right? Fantasizing and dreaming. And I made lists, and I wrote journal prompts, and I did all the things. I had vision boards. I did all the things to really keep the dream alive in my heart. And I worked a lot, and I worked so that I could travel. So I worked 2 jobs full time, and then when I could, like usually once a year, I would take 1 or 2 weeks off and usually travel to Europe because I am a Europhile. But I went to Central America, I went to Asia, I went to other places, and always in the back of my head, I was thinking, can I live here? Is this somewhere that I could live? Of course, you don't really know until you do it, until you live in a country, which is why trying it out is a great option if you have the budget. I did not have the budget to do that. So it was the impetus for me was a breakup. I would hope that for me in the future and for you that it is a planning phase. I still planned, but I would rather not have life dictate my choices. It's not like that all the time or even most of the time. So the first step that I recommend is getting crystal clear on your dream, defining what it is that you want, what, where, when, and write it down. If you're not a person who writes things down, you can use an audio recorder and do it that way, or transcribe it. Whatever your method is, do it. Get really, really clear. And maybe you have multiple dreams. That's okay. Write them all down. And maybe one dream would lead to something else. So, for example, you want to move abroad, but you need a remote job first. So you need to first focus on getting that remote job so that you can then focus on moving abroad. And there are ways to move abroad on very, very low budget. There are places where you can live on $500 a month, believe it or not. And you could teach English online and make $500 a month. So just get clear on what you want, what you're willing to compromise. That's an important thing because there will be compromises. And start dreaming about it. I love dreaming. So dreaming is always my number one first step. But getting clear on your dreams is the basis of this step. Then step number 2 is challenging your limiting beliefs. So identify what is holding you back from achieving your dreams. Are there doubts? Are there fears? Are there naysayers in your life? Is it money issues? What is keeping you from moving forward? It could be you're worried about aging parents or adult children. And if that is the case, you can start having the conversation with them if they're open to the conversation. If not, I recommend not having it. That was my case. So I had to move without I tried having the conversation actually, and it did not go well. So I had to come up with an alternate plan, which I did, and I recommend, because I didn't want to stay in a place that I wasn't happy. And I mean physically, but I also mean mentally. I didn't want to stay somewhere that felt like I couldn't grow anymore. I couldn't breathe anymore. I was just working nonstop and I wasn't really living my life. And I didn't want to have to do that for somebody else. And that was a huge wake up call for me. Like, I was going to stay for this person in my life until their children were grown up. And I was willing to do that. And it was 7 years. But when I made the decision, there were other people in my life, in my family, that were not happy with my decision and did not want me to go and tried to guilt me and tried to stop me, basically. And I realized I couldn't let their fears hold me back. So write down those limiting beliefs that you might have, and then reframe. So I don't know if you've heard of reframing. I love reframing. I have simple examples, or difficult, more complicated examples. So the easy example is that you have a friend who has disappointed you in some way, and you're just heartbroken and you're going over it in your mind over and over, or you have a relationship that ended. I mean, not that that's easy, but that's what happened to me, right? I had a relationship that ended prematurely in my mind. I thought this was going to be my forever person, but I reframed it by deciding to change my life completely and do what I had always wanted to do and had not allowed myself to do, which was move into a van and then move abroad. So that's a reframing. It's changing your belief to something that's positive. And so another example is whenever I move somewhere, an apartment, I've only lived in apartments, and whenever I move to an apartment, there's nothing's perfect. There's always something, some little thing that's usually more than one little thing that's annoying. That's just life. So I can focus on that for sure. I can focus on the fact that I can't flush my toilet paper down the toilet here, and that my sink is the size of a thumbnail. You can put one pot in the sink, and when you turn the water on, it splashes everywhere and it covers the countertop, which is wood, so it stains and warps. I can focus on all of that. All day long, I could focus on it if I wanted to. The noise from living on a busy street, the noise from neighbors, sure. But instead, I choose to focus on the things I love about the apartment and the things I love about my neighborhood. And that for me is easier to do than to focus on the negative. And that's because I've trained myself to do this. When I go to leave an apartment, I let myself focus on the negatives. And what I do before I leave any apartment is I write a list of all the things I hate about it. Because then it's easier for me to let go. You might have a different way of reframing, and that's okay too. Whatever you decide, however you do it, as long as it's working and it's positive, I say yes. Okay, step number three is to research and educate yourself. So let's just say your dream is to move abroad, because it probably is if you're watching this. Maybe you know an area you might want to live. Maybe it's Central America, South America, Asia, Europe, Africa. Maybe you know the continent or the area that you want to move to, but you're not sure about the city, or you're not sure about a country. So start doing the research. Maybe you only have $1,000 a month, and what's important to you is sunny weather all the time. Start doing the research to find out where you can live on $1,000 a month that has sunny weather all the time, or sunny weather most of the year, or whatever you're looking for. And there will be a lot of different options and different things for different people. Maybe what's important to you is living near your aging parents so that you can quickly fly back if something happens. Maybe not. So write all that down, make lists if that's what you do, or use audio recording if that's what you do, or think about it if that's how you work best. And decide on some options. So, for example, I had some options. So my options, and for me, and probably for you, where I qualify for a visa was pretty high on the list. And that is how I ended up in Portugal, as I qualified for the visa here. I'll give you an example of when I started researching and coming up with my list. At first, I was looking at Central and South America. So I was looking at Mexico, Ecuador, Panama, specifically. And those were the three that I was thinking, yeah, I could live, from all my research, I could live in one of these places. And then, because I'm a Europhile and I really wanted to move to Europe, I started looking into Spain, into France, into Bulgaria, Albania, and Portugal. And I had some things that were important to me, and I found them in Portugal. I have a friend who their top priority was living on $700 a month. And so she ended up in Cambodia. Well, first she ended up in Thailand, and then she tried Cambodia, and then she tried Nepal, and now she's in Bulgaria, and she also did try Albania. And she's got a list of things she's looking for, and she hasn't found it in any of these places, but she's had that experience on $700 a month. So it's not impossible. I'll just say that. So really research, educate yourself, find out what you need, and look at resources for that. When I decided to move to Portugal, I found a Facebook group, and that's where I got my resources. Then, and before I moved into van life, I hired a coach. And I'm really big on hiring coaches or consultants. That's what I've always done. I did that before I started this YouTube channel, and I did that before I moved into van life. And I had a consultant who I met with every single week. And she was living in van life and had been for years, and she really helped me move forward. I feel like I could have done it without her, but I didn't want to. And I also have a consultant that I've had for years and years for my writing. So whatever works for you, do it. Number 4 is break your dream into smaller steps. And whether this means creating a timeline or a checklist or both, great. That's what I did. I created both. I created a timeline and a checklist. For me, my timeline is always 1 year. Don't know why. That's what I'm comfortable with. I have some clients and friends that their timeline is 6 months. I know some people, their timeline was 3 months. For me, that seems like just like anxiety provoking for me. I can't do it. So I'm really a 1 year person. And you probably know yourself well enough to know what feels comfortable for you. And then I love checklists. I have checklists for everything. I have my to-do today checklist, for real. I have my shopping checklist. I have everything. I have all of it. So I did have a checklist for both for moving into the van and also for moving it to Portugal. And I either cross things off or check them off. I just love it. And I just use my notes app on my phone now for my checklist, but I've had physical ones, whatever works for you. So the other part of breaking this down into smaller steps is going in order of what you need, right? So maybe the first thing you need to do, or the first thing you do need to do, is research. So the first thing you'll need to do is research, and then you find out you need a visa for this country. So you have to go through the steps of getting the visa. You have to go through the steps of renewing your passport if your passport is almost expired. You'll have to research and go through the steps of renting somewhere or moving into a hotel or an Airbnb until you have a rental. So really list those and break those down into smaller and smaller steps. Number 5, is start before you're ready. I did that because of life circumstances, but hopefully you do that by choice. And whether that means taking scouting trips to a few different places that you know you might want to move to, or doing what my friend Rebecca does and living in those places for several months, 3 to 6 months in each place. That's what she's done to find out where she wants to be and where she doesn't want to be. And again, on $700 a month. So it can be done. Maybe that's how you start. But whatever way, you can join a group, you can start saving, you can send emails to people who are already doing it, or follow people, or that does go into the researching phase, but it's an action. It's helping you move forward and talking about it with people that are supportive only. And that is number 6, build a support system, and build a support system of supporters. So I had a lot of naysayers in my life, and I learned rather quickly not to talk to them and tell them what I was going to do. And I found a lot of my support system and people that I could connect with online, in online groups, Meetup. There's so many. I'm off Facebook now, but there are many Facebook groups. If you do a search for expat and the area you want to live in, or digital nomad in the area, or just digital nomads, there's so many. And everybody that I met through those groups was really, really supportive. I joined an outside group that it doesn't exist anymore, and that's how I met my friend Rebecca. And so I'm just saying there are many different ways to find your community. Internations is a great group, and finding people that are going to support you emotionally and be your cheerleader. And maybe your support group is on YouTube. It probably is. If you're here, my support group now is on Substack. So it's wherever you want to go, wherever you feel drawn. And yeah, that's all I have to say about that. But support system is so important. Community is so important. And when you're having a tough day, keep your why front and center. Remind yourself why you're doing this. And if that is vision board, journaling, however it manifests or works for you, that's what I say, do it. Whatever works. I have a vision board. I do one every year. It's digital. I make it in Canva. I put it as my wallpaper on my computer. I put it as my wallpaper on my phone. But what I did before I moved to Portugal was I just had a shot, a photo that I found online for free as my screen of Porto. And that's where I ended up living. And I didn't know where I was going to move to in Portugal. I had no idea. I'd never been here before, as mentioned. So I checked out a few different towns. I had a list of towns I thought I would want to move to. But my screen, not my screensaver, but my desktop photo was Porto. And my desktop phone picture was Porto. So I just say that because it's just so funny how then even a couple years later, this is where I am. So whatever you need to do to keep that front and center, whether it's a little note that you carry in your wallet or you look at every day, or a sticky that you put on your mirror, or photos, or whatever. I love that. And that really helped me keep that my goal in my mind all the time. So when things get hard, I've got this dream, I've got this goal, and this is where I'm headed. I'm really glad you're here. And if you're feeling stuck and overwhelmed, know that I am a huge cheerleader. I'm not saying everything's a bed of roses. It's not. But I am so happy I moved here. I have zero regrets. And I will keep posting content, find other people's content, look for where you might want to move, and find other people's YouTube videos, and really dive into this, because It's life-changing. It really is. And, if it doesn't work out, you can always go back, right? So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for watching. I hope that I was able to provide some value. And if so, I would love it if you would subscribe.